I think, and if there was a gold-plated way of going about it, that I think, a pathway that we've seen work really, really well, it's to almost have three games. So the first game occurs quite early in the strategic process when you're doing very much sort of the ephemeral, where are we, what should we be doing, strategic level thinking, where you're quite right, you've got a degree of representation of the implementers and the delivery side of things, and maybe some of them sort of middle layer that sits between that. The second test would come at a point at which you've maybe got some options as to how you could go about delivering it. Options A, B, and C. Because nobody's going to essentially go away and say, here's the strategy now, we're just going to deliver it. You should be coming up with different ways of doing it. That's the point at which you then start to shift the balance, and it starts to get maybe heavier around the middle layer, with still a degree of implementation representation, and then now a decreasing level of strategic level representation. And then as you go from, right, we've now chosen this option through that decision game, we now shift into actually the implementation, almost health check if you want. And pardon the pun around pharmaceutical side of things, but it's that final reality check of we've gone from the high level thinking through the options to this is what we think we're going to deliver. Now let's really make sure it's not got any holes, gaps, problems in it. And for that you really do need the people who are going to be actually making it happen. But
so you're picking your blend of players to match those three steps.
To match the
but
three
it's
steps.
A blend.
It is a blend, it's always a
Changes.
blend. And you're just shifting the emphasis, and you're shifting the way in which you facilitate it as well. And I think that's where the real skill in these games comes in. It's not necessarily the concepts. The concepts of what we're talking about here aren't particularly difficult. The real skill and the art, I think, comes down to really high level facilitation. Able to understand that in this particular game, we are thinking at this particular level with this particular group of stakeholders. And I need to draw these people in a certain way to generate a certain reaction and output. But it's also around, I think, around what the objectives and the aims are. Because for some of this, it's, say you're trying something and it's not around a launch of a big new product, it's just around change and transformation. And bring in something which we've done for one of the UK's major supermarkets. You're actually using the pressure test as a way of socializing the change. You're not necessarily using it to test, does the plan technically stand up? You're using it as a vehicle to get people into a room to say, well, why are we doing this? That's not actually answering the question the problem that I have. You're generating a solution for me, but it's a solution to a problem that doesn't actually exist. You're barking the wrong tree. So I think that it's not just about when it happens during the process and who is taking part. It's also about what do you want as an overall outcome from the end of this game. Do you want people on board, bought in, feeling like they're part of the process because they've been given an opportunity? Or do you want a technical, specific test of a launch from a regulatory or financial perspective, for example?